Christ Channel of Light Fluid. Prologue. In 1930, a war broke out on the continent of Yozur. The kingdom of Yellmach declared neutrality, and King Eric decided to supply both sides of the war and other smaller conflicts caused by the outbreak of war in order to benefit his people. Yellmach by then hasn't been involved in any armed conflicts for over a whole century. As a result, a lot of countries on both the invader side and ally side have imposed some embargoes on Yellmach until the kingdom cannot import any coal into its borders. By 1931, King Eric declared a ban on the construction of new steam-powered ships, and steamships under construction at the time were either scrapped or made to be converted to burn oil instead of coal to avoid the cutter's torch. Diesel rapidly became the new standard for marine propulsion in Yellmach. A harsh ban on new coal furnaces, coal boilers, and the new coal-powered household appliances came into effect as well. King Eric took the whole slew of embargoes as an opportunity to tap into the kingdom's oil reserves and set up a few oil rigs offshore. A new law was also put in place that only the kingdom's railways are allowed to use what limited production of coal came from the mines, just to keep the railways running. Long story short, nobody was getting coal. Whatever coal was being mined can only be purchased by the national railways to keep the locomotives running. Now in 1932, all of Yellmach's power plants have successfully been converted to burn oil instead of coal, making a quick and unprecedented phase-out of coal in the electrical grid. As a whole, the kingdom simply adapted with the embargoes to not need coal unless it's for the railways. Now another wartime embargo came, causing lines and lines at petrol stations, and petrol rationing was put into effect. This year saw quite a boom in traffic for the railways indeed. Welcome to Yellmach, March 2nd, 1932. It was my first week working on the Yellmach National Railway. My father and brother work on the narrow gauge lines in the northern part of the country, while I am down here in the southern counties being a fireman on one of the biggest standard gauge engines. I never thought I'd be finally working on the Y&R. Kind of funny how I'm a 5'2" female corgi going to work as a fireman. My brother and my father know the narrow gauge mountain Yodcaster Railway like the back of their paws. Being a fresh graduate straight out of secondary school and being 18 years old, I took quite an unusual path for a lady. When riding my bicycle from my house in the village of Sudrin Junction to the train station by the same name, lines of cars outside of petrol stations with painted signs reading "No Petrol" were a common sight. More like everybody owned a car to begin with. Don't even know how to drive an automobile yet. Luckily, the railways can take me all across Yellmach. Much faster than going by car, given that all the buildings and streets in the country were built long before cars were even a thing. The Y&R has been serving the people since 1807, originally being a horse-drawn railway, for steam locomotives replaced horses and rail wagons in 1830. Yellmach is built for locomotives, not so much for automobiles. Upon arriving at the Sudrin Junction station, I clocked in, changed into a clean pair of overalls, went into the rail yard shed, being oiling the big black 060 tender engine with the driver. Edith, don't forget to clean the ashes out of the smoke box." The driver, a tall and lanky grey wolf, called out to me. "Rightio, I'll get to it," I replied after oiling the locomotive. Cleaning the ashes out of the smoke box isn't too hard once I've gotten used to it. Being short doesn't help, but regardless. Since the whole mess of war and conflicts broke out 2 years ago, I'm glad that King Eric decided to declare Yellmach as totally neutral in all calamity going on outside the country's borders. Neighbouring countries like Kovlaka have had their cities bombed to smithereens during nighttime air raids. I'd much rather deal with inconvenient embargoes than the full-out war like any other rational Yelvian citizen. The Royal Military indiscriminately shoots on all foreign military aircraft that even mistakenly fly over Yellmach. Other folks working on the railway still sometimes make deliveries to other countries. They have to take a lot more extra caution when doing so. After cleaning out the ashes from the smoke box and closing the smoke box door, I went inside the cab and into the firebox to clean out the clinker. Oh lordy, cleaning out the clinker from an engine's firebox is really a job I do not like doing, and that's a job where being short actually helps. I do not like tight spaces, to say the very least. The driver, Alex, is a 25-year-old lanky grey wolf who's been working on the railway since he was 16. The lad is really what one would call not skilled in social situations outside of the railway. He came back with a thermos full of hot cocoa and a tin of biscuits to have for himself during the first passenger trains to pull on an early morning like this one. He doesn't treat me any differently because I'm a lady. To him, I'm just another somebody that can shovel coal into an engine's firebox. Eventually, we did everything to get the 060 ready for the day, and by 6 o'clock we were off. Can I have some biscuits? I asked, knowing I've got to bring my own tin of them. I don't see why not. Just leave enough for me, Alex answered, fixated on driving the engine and reversing it to be coupled up to a line of coaches. Did you hear the big express engine's been converted to burn oil? If one of those big boys, it'd make your job a whole lot easier, Alex mentioned, knowing the things we have to do just to get an engine ready in the morning. I guess so, but those things are massive. So many things to oil and clean, I replied in amusement, not even being able to imagine being a fireman for an express engine. The express engines without a doubt burn up a whole lot of coal, and coal isn't an easy thing to come by these days. Since the war and embargoes, the price of coal per tonne in Yellmach shot up more than tenfold. Coal in 1929 was only £2 a tonne, and now it's over in eye-watering £50 per tonne. My annual salary is £500 as an entry-level fireman, with the help of some slight nepotism. The narrow-gauge engines, almost all of them currently in service, were built in the last century and still going strong. Nowadays, the narrow-gauge engines are burning coal along with agricultural waste like manure, straw, sticks and leaves. Just about anything that can be burned and shovelled into an engine's firebox. 1 metric tonne of heavy fuel oil is only £8.50, so King Eric has a lot of reasons to cut out coal whenever possible. Only the railway's getting coal. Not to mention heating oil conversion kits for home appliances like boilers and furnaces are flying off the shelves because nobody in the general public can get any coal at all. Even I bought heating oil conversion kits myself. I'm very happy with the results indeed. King Eric likes to keep old engines that don't pull passengers in service for decades longer than intended lifespans to save money while not compromising on quality of service to the people. Life is pretty easy when the railways are all owned by the Crown. There's no corners being cut when it matters to keep operational costs reasonably low, while also keeping ticket prices low as well. Soon, Alex and I were off as the engine began pulling the passenger train through the countryside. Occasionally older engines pulling freight trains, oil tankers and trucks passed by, and the drivers tooted the whistle to say good morning. This is why I love my line of work. Always going places every day and be able to go all across the country if I really wanted to. Alex sighed with a slight smile, his tail wagging. Really? I remember the part you really don't like about it, I awkwardly added, when I've only known Alex for just over a week. Seeing an engine being scrapped is a sad sight. We know just over half of all the locomotives used in Yorkshire are built right here in Yellmach. Steam locomotives are a national pride. There's a good reason working on the railways is seen as patriotic here. Alex reminded me how our country has a lot of factories and so many jobs in manufacturing. That's what everybody usually says. In my eyes, anyway. I just like trains more than people, he reiterated, being his usual not very social self. We talked as I kept shoveling coal into the engine's firebox. Alex, as usual, was driving the engine smoothly, at a skill level far exceeding train drivers much older than him. All Alex mostly talks about is trains, coal, and the intricate workings of a locomotive. No mention of a spouse or any lovers. No mention of his family. Not even mention anything regarding any friends he has. Does he have any friends? He's 25. I know wolves his age are already married and have started families. Are you by any chance in a relationship? I asked, not even bothering to be subtle about it. Relationship? I've never been on a date in my life, Alex nonchalantly answered with one brow raised. I'm not sure what I was getting at. Really? Have you ever been intimate with the lass once in your life? I almost sputtered in disbelief, slightly disappointed. No, if I did get that far, I don't know how that works, he exclaimed, shrugging his shoulders. It now came to me. That grey wolf is a 25-year-old virgin and train enthusiast. Not that it's a bad thing, just unexpected. He doesn't show any interest in romance, marriage, or women as a whole. Alex mostly has his interests focused on trains and whatever goes with the railways. We kept the old 060 chuffing along the tracks at a good pace, and even a few minutes ahead of schedule. This morning was going very swell. The turbo dynamo provided power to the engine's lamps and light bulbs. Hearing it making whirring sounds when generating power was quite something. Turbo dynamos are little steam turbines that provide auxiliary power in the form of electricity. I'm surprised nobody has thought of putting a steam turbine-powered locomotive on the tracks yet. Alex and I kept at it by pulling packed passenger trains. I got quite a workout shoveling tons of coal into the engine's firebox. Alrighty, I think we can take a break. We clocked in just before 5 in the morning, now it's tea time. I know a place we can stop by during our little break, Alex announced, making me let out a sigh of relief knowing we can finally take a break. The train stopped at a big station Heartsguard to let passengers off. We stepped out of the cab, letting the driver and fireman take over with the engine set to depart in half an hour. Where are we going out for a bite? I pondered, knowing there are plenty of bakeries in Heartsguard. I can stop by a pastry shop later. That's what I really want to show you first. Swear it's not too far from here. Alex interrupted before briefly walking off towards the station's big rail yard outside. Slow down, will you? I'm coming, I huffed, knowing my short corgi legs do not help with running anywhere near as fast as Alex can. Run as fast as you can. You can't catch me, I'm the conductor man. Alex laughed, now sprinting as fast as his lanky legs can move him. Are we really playing this at work? Come on, there's never a dull moment with that wolf, is there? So I want to eat a late lunch already. I've got to eat breakfast today. I stopped a couple of times to catch my breath. My canine nose still picked up where Alex was heading at the Heartsguard Central Station rail yard. And if something so scrawny managed to not run out of breath. I'm over here, my arms are sore from shoveling coal all day. Nobody ever said working on the rail would be a cakewalk, not even my brother. My brother once lost a leg after he got caught by a railroad switch with points clamping down hard on his foot. Narrow gauge engine pulling a freight train went along and amputated it right on the spot. And after that my brother still had to hop to work the next week. Soon I finally found Alex after carefully running through the rail yard to see what he was stopping to look at. What does he want to show me? I panted, wheezing from being sweaty and out of breath. Look, Darren Thomas is building something. Come by here sometimes, see what contraptions he's putting together. The Crown finances the crazy experiments and contraptions he conjures onto the rails, Alex explained, waving a hand at me to follow him at a walking speed this time. Contraptions? I pondered, wanting to know what those could be. A lynx, dirty from the grime and grease of work, slowly manoeuvred a giant outlandish contraption on the modified 062 frame without a body. The lynx stopped the contraption upon seeing Alex waving hello. What's going on in the builder's shop today, Darren? Alex called out, getting the dirty feline's attention. A whole bunch of things, mate. Making something out of an old 062 frame picked from a scrapyard a few kilometres from here. Kept the old wheels on it too. Similar to oils, it only has one long coupling rod on each side to connect to these drive wheels. The lynx boasted proudly, showing off his latest design of locomotive, despite it not having a body. Is that a diesel engine you got on there? I asked, pointing to a massive inline 6-cylinder diesel engine idling on the contraption. Sure do. It's my patented new thing called a diesel locomotive. I invented it. My diesel locomotive, I tend for it to be used as a simple-to-use shunting engine for all the dirty work, including pulling freight trains. It'll also be much cheaper to run. A reminder, this is just a prototype. The lynx answered briefly. Hey, Edith, this is Darren. Alex introduced me to the lynx, not afraid to get his paws dirty. For a famed inventor being backed by the Crown, thought Darren would be snobby and not want to be anywhere near muck and grime, much like some other inventors I came across so far in my lifetime. We were soon invited by Darren to step into the area where he's controlling this diesel-powered contraption where a cab would go. Well, on to something, Darren warned, putting a bunch of old levers seemingly repurposed for the diesel prototype. The sound of a giant two-stroke cylinder diesel engine revving up to whatever low RPM made a prototype contraption begin moving with a jolt from the sheer torque and power whatever this diesel engine is. Where did you get that? I curiously commented, referring to the giant diesel engine moving the prototype. Well, that came from a warship being built 2 years ago. We had some serious engine troubles. I had it shipped to my workshop and had it rebuilt to be put into something later. The flywheel, on the other hand, is brand new to connect to an in-house made fluid coupling, which goes an absolute unit for a 3-speed transmission and then drives the wheels. When all the inner-city steam trams were replaced with electric ones in 1913, my father convinced King Eric to put them in an abandoned rail yard to keep reusing either for parts or tinkering around within the workshop. Darren explained before going a little off-topic. I can start to see that Darren is possibly one of the few people Alex can actually consider a friend, as opposed to just another acquaintance. Oh yeah, remember when we were teenagers? How you take out the boiler from those city trams to build a little tank engine 8 years ago? Its name is Cobbler. Alex reminisced about their old teenage fascination with building a whole tank engine back in 1924. Cobbler is one of a kind, isn't she? Still being used around the workshop, hauling freight cars full of stuff I need to get building with. When rolling stock gets decommissioned, I feel like I won the lottery. I'll tell you what. Cobbler may be a mishmash of old scrap locomotives and a tram put together, but my God, she'll outlive us for sure. I also have an old steam tram, built in 1898 and overdue for a boiler overhaul, but it still goes along the tracks. One of its class was used to build cobbler. Besides, half the other steam trams are in the warehouse said to be used for parts when needed for my projects. You know what? Might as well have that old tram overhauled and rebuilt to be a second tank engine for me, Darren boasted, not so subtly bragging about his ability to personally own multiple working engines. We went along the tracks until Darren dropped us off at a siding. Alex waved the busy links goodbye for now before we walked into the city of Hartsgard, located almost 120 kilometres northwest from Sudrin Junction. The Grey Wolf and I wandered around the busy city, where the scent of smoke coming from factory smokestacks lingered everywhere. Hartsgard is one of the largest cities in all of Yellmach, where slightly over 10% of the population lives. A bustling metropolis at large with the whole economic boom of manufacturing for neighbouring countries that had had their own factories destroyed by air raid bombings. People from the countryside are moving into big cities like this in droves, given how working in a factory paid so much more than working on a farm. Hartsgard is also where the Royal Military built its warships. The coastal city is in the perfect place to be a massive manufacturing hub, have multiple shipbuilding yards, and do business with other countries on both sides of the war. It's hard to believe how Yellmach went from a poor agricultural country to being the most industrialised in all of Yozur, all in less than a century. 60% of all jobs nowadays are for just working in factories to keep up with the boom in manufacturing goods domestically. My uncle even works at a factory building firearms supplied Kovlaka's war effort. Electric trams and trolleys ran through city roads on their own rail lines, going places where a steam locomotive would struggle manoeuvring. Overhead wires supplied the trams and trolleys electricity through pantographs. Members of Parliament suggested there be trolleys that used rubber tyres and drive on roads. The idea was quickly thrown out and rightfully dismissed as dumb. Train tracks and rails are a national pride. Even suggesting tearing them up might as well be treason. I followed Alex into a cafe but more than enough various pastries to hold us over for the rest of the day. We sat down at an indoor table to eat our late lunch of pastries. Alex told me about the many things he sees working on the YNR, what I should know as a newbie on the railway. A radio nearby was tuned into a news broadcast, telling what was going on with the rapid technological advancement going on lately. In other news, Parliament's passed legislation bringing hydrogeneration to Yellmach. The first hydro-generating station is set to begin construction next month in the northern half of the country. King Eric declared that by 1945 a quarter of all electricity shall come from hydroelectric power, and that the coal-fired power plants being converted to burn oil instead is permanent. A ban on new coal-fired power plants is now in effect according to documents made public by Parliament. When the war and conflicts abroad are over, the oil-converted coal plants are set to be demolished and replaced with new and much more efficient power plants meant to burn oil from the start. The radio host announced some of the country's latest technological advancements, were going on to mention a science fair taking place in the city 30 kilometres north of Hartsgard. Darren Ray has been getting the Kinko full swing letting him invent. At this point, Darren is like that friendly neighbourhood mechanical engineer boarded on bad scientist type of links, Alex commented, obviously having heard what the radio was saying. Darren knows the king? I gasped, not knowing what to say. Yeah, the king knows how to rule and all that important king stuff, but he's not mechanically inclined. He goes to Darren for a bunch of stuff when it comes to infrastructure, railway stuff, and a bunch of other industrial stuff. King Eric trusts an actual inventor and engineer, instead of old farts sitting in Parliament who still think a horse costs a sack of wheat and 2 goats. He told me that himself. Alex casually replied like it was a normal thing to him. You met the king too? I loudly whispered, taken aback by how the lanky grey wolf thinks it's simply a normal thing. Well, first in person back in 1923, when I first started work on the railway. He's stopping by to visit Darren's father and look around the workshop. At the time, Darren and I were busy putting cobbler together. First didn't pay much attention to the unexpected visitor, Alex said while eating a cheese Danish and drinking a cup of hot tea. What's Darren up to now? Not counting the many training-related things he does. I changed the subject from the grey wolf and his lynx friend meeting the king. Well, Darren and his father are busy designing new oil-burning power plants to be built when the war is over. To give you an idea, it's something like the oil boilers in a typical home, but way bigger. Darren helped build a scale model and many miniature prototypes of big oil boilers meant to make steam that turns big steam turbines, which in turn make electricity. Their small-scale model prototypes have achieved a whopping 70% efficiency with burning crude oil, a whole lot better than the old coal plants converted to oil. You'd have to ask Darren about what goes into making boilers so efficient. Didn't tell me much except for the test results. The grey wolf continued, further convinced me that Darren is most likely an engineer with way too much time on his paws. We ate our fair share of pastries and drank tea. It was fascinating to hear Alex so invested into what Darren and his father are inventing with all the research being funded by the Crown. Alex mentioned the efficiency figures would be even higher because of what Darren calls a combined cycle, meaning the exhaust of 2 steam turbines is used to spin a 3rd turbine or something like that. Given how things are going outside of Yellmach's borders, Darren has plenty of time to refine the design of future oil power plants even further. After our late lunch, we headed back to the Hartsguard Central Station to go over the crew of a train headed back to Sudrin Junction. Alex is definitely a very interesting wolf. How his connections with some of the country's top engineers and inventors is astounding. Darren is the definition of not judging a book by its cover, able to actually have a bigger influence on the railways than Parliament itself. Probably why the train depart in every big station at least once every 30 minutes. So my first week working on the YNR is quite an interesting one indeed, without a dull moment. I'm pretty sure Alex only sees me either only as a co-worker or a friend, or both by now. That grey wolf is a walking train encyclopedia, the knowledge of every class of locomotive ever. Other women like to gossip and talk ill of others. I, on the other hand, is a lady and a corgi, and more focused on sometimes getting a free tin container with a gallon of heating oil for my house as part of a job benefit. Alex is a smart wolf whether he knows it or not, but not anywhere near the level of genius Darren has. Being part of the YNR so far has really changed my perception by the work it takes to keep Yellmach's dominant form of transportation guaranteed to never run even a minute late. During a time like this where resources are much more limited compared to before the war started, the railways have been expanded to reach all parts of the country. Tracks being repaired and upgraded, signal boxes and other railway infrastructure being preserved or built to accommodate massive railway expansion. The electric trams and trolleys found in cities, overall acting as a form of cheap transit, is how most people in urban areas commute when not riding their bikes or walking to work. Automobiles in Yellmach are actually far less common than the press says. Traffic jams are simply unheard of in a country with millions of people. Every part of the YNR and other railways owned by the Crown adds up to one massive and highly intricate system, requiring many people to operate and run on time. A beautiful sight when everything's all in perfect working order. Yellmach is serious about railways when the railways have almost the same budget, if not more funding than the Royal Military, despite the calamity going on in Yozo. Alex certainly feels blessed to have been born in a neutral country. I can't say I blame the lad. Radio broadcasts keeping up with the war and many resulting proxy conflicts have detailed many gruesome fates. Hundreds of civilian lives lost every day and every night, either from being caught in crossfire or homes targeted during air raid bombings. Things have really started heating up. Kavlaka, Bosnia, Roven, and so many other nations have reported at least a third of their populations dying since war broke out in 1930. King Eric has reportedly signed orders to turn away all refugees and asylum seekers in order to maintain Yellmach's neutrality. Sure, the economy all across Yozo is in deep depression because of what's going on. So, in a way, Yellmach is currently the richest country in Yozo by a landslide. So that was part 1 of the Yellmach Chronicles. We'll have many more parts to come through the year as we read through the whole story. And if you hadn't guessed by the fact I have an old GWR 060 pannier tank with the ferritin dartboard symbol of British Railways on the tank, which obviously dates from the 50s. Yes, I am interested in railways, so I am enjoying this one. And I'm picking up all the nice references and well done bits of railway technology we have in here. So I hope you're enjoying this. And there's a lot more to come with it. Also coming up this weekend, we are returning to Frostfang, and we pick up with more stuff from Nevin there. That will be this weekend, but I hope you enjoyed this extra little weekday video. And before I go, as always, I want to say thank you to all my donors on Ko-fi and Patreon. You really do help keep the channel going when things fall apart or I need something new. And yes, there's someone I need to contact as soon as I have a spare moment about something to do with the channel, but I don't have any spare moments right now, so I'll do that eventually. Patrons will be the first to see what I'm working on. Short, but I hope you like it and it'll be different. Speaking of patrons, my top patrons are Andy Peng, Smuto, Omar, Nova Starburn, Arvis Mouse Productions, Yeka, Rafu, Mario Cervantes, Matt Kenya, Mohammed Al-Zamel, Aaron Fox, Zach, Evan King, Sindri Dragowolf, Kopi, Spiderling, Grizz, Dissonance, Ida Corval, Tiger Cup, Brian Hall, Bastian, Copus Vissa, and Kartek. And I still need to rewrite this note as some tea spilled on the other day. I can still read the names, so we're good. I hope you enjoyed the Yellmach Chronicles. Let me think, we are at the end of April, so sometime in May we'll be carrying on with the story. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.